George Washington stood not as a conqueror, not as a king, but as something the world had never truly seen before, a president chosen by the people. The Revolutionary War was over, but peace had not brought rest. Instead, it delivered a heavier burden. The fate of an entire nation now rested not on muskets or cannons, but on decisions, patience, and vision. Washington understood one truth clearly. Winning independence was easier than preserving it. The United States was young, divided, and uncertain. 13 states pulled in different directions, each guarding its own interests, suspicious of centralized power. Many believed the new republic would collapse within a decade. Foreign empires watched closely, waiting for failure. And at the center of this uncertainty stood George Washington, reluctant, weary, but unshakably committed. Washington never desired the presidency. He had already sacrificed years of his life to war, lost friends, and endured hunger, cold, and despair alongside his soldiers. When peace came, all he wanted was to return to Mount Vernon, to live quietly as a farmer. But the nation would not allow it. When he was elected unanimously as the first president of the United States in 1789, Washington felt not pride, but fear. There was no rule book, no example to follow. Every action he took would set a precedent for all future presidents. If he acted too strongly, he would be called a tyrant. If he acted too weakly, the nation would fall apart. History had placed him in an impossible position, and there was no escape. One of the first problems Washington faced was deceptively simple. Where would the nation be governed from? There was no permanent capital. Congress moved from city to city, borrowing buildings, arguing endlessly. New York felt too northern. Philadelphia felt too powerful. Southern states feared being controlled by northern interests. Northern states feared losing economic influence. Washington saw the danger clearly. A nation without a permanent capital was a nation without stability. He believed the capital must be neutral, belonging to no state, serving all equally. It had to be built from nothing, just like the country itself. That belief would give birth to Washington, D.C. Behind closed doors, in quiet conversations far from public view, America's future was negotiated. Alexander Hamilton wanted the federal government to take responsibility for state war debts. Southern leaders opposed it fiercely. The solution came through compromise. The federal government would assume the debts. In return, the national capital would be placed along the Potomac River, southern enough to balance power, northern enough to unite the states. Washington approved the decision. The land was swampy, humid, and undeveloped. Many laughed at the idea of building a grand capital there. Mosquitoes ruled the land. Roads barely existed. Disease was common. But Washington saw beyond the mud and insects. He saw symbolism. The Potomac River flowed between north and south, like a bridge between divided worlds. The capital would rise there, not in luxury, but in meaning. George Washington did something no modern president would ever do. He personally walked the land. He rode on horseback through forests and marshes, marking boundaries, measuring distances, studying the terrain. His early life as a surveyor returned to him now, shaping the destiny of a nation. He imagined wide avenues where trees still stood untouched. He envisioned public spaces where citizens would gather freely. He wanted a city that inspired dignity, not fear. This would not be a city of kings and castles. This would be a city of democracy. Washington selected Pierre Charles L'Enfant, a French engineer, to design the city. L'Enfant dreamed boldly. His plans included wide boulevards, grand circles, and open spaces meant to symbolize transparency and power belonging to the people. But vision came with conflict. Elephant refused compromise. He clashed with landowners and ignored political realities. Construction stalled. Tensions rose. Washington tried patience. He tried diplomacy. Eventually, he made a painful decision. Elephant was dismissed. Washington believed leadership was not about pride. It was about responsibility. The city had to move forward, even if the dream had to be adjusted. Building Washington, D.C. was brutal work. Laborers toiled in heat and disease. Funding came slowly. Politics interfered constantly. Progress was painfully slow. Critics mocked the project, calling it a failure before it was finished. Washington took every criticism personally. At night, by candlelight, he read reports of delays, arguments, and suffering. He answered letters carefully, choosing words that calmed rather than inflamed. He knew the city might not be completed in his lifetime. But he also knew that abandoning it would destroy the nation's future. While the capital struggled to rise, the nation itself faced threats. Britain still lingered nearby. France demanded loyalty. Spain threatened trade routes. Inside the country, anger boiled over. Farmers rebelled against taxes during the Whiskey Rebellion. Many demanded immediate violence. Washington waited. Then, when the moment was right, he acted, leading troops himself, not to punish, but to remind the nation that law mattered. The rebellion ended with minimal bloodshed. Authority was preserved. So was restraint. Despite his fame, Washington was deeply lonely. There were no former presidents to advise him, no traditions to guide him. Every mistake would echo through history. Every success would raise expectations higher. Political parties formed, something Washington feared deeply. He believed factions would tear the nation apart. His health declined, his body ached, his teeth failed, his spirit tired. Still he stayed, because leaving too soon could break everything. After 2 terms, many begged him to stay. Some wanted him for life. Others quietly hoped America would become a monarchy in all but name. Washington shocked the world. He refused. By stepping away from power voluntarily, he proved democracy could survive. He showed that leadership was service, not ownership. It was his greatest victory. Washington died in 1799. Before Washington, D.C. was complete. He never saw the city fully alive. He never walked its finished streets. But his spirit never left. Every road, every monument, every decision made in that city carries the weight of his vision. A nation led by laws, not men.